Do we want to have the weight on the balls of the feet or a weight evenly distributed across the foot when engaging in a combative encounter? Well, there's two schools of thoughts on it. The first school of thought says put the weight on the balls of the feet so that you're more explosive, you're more springy, you're more agile, you can quickly get in and bump the opponent, or you can more quickly evade their attacks. However, there comes some major disadvantages with that, especially if you take the heel completely off the ground so it's just the balls of your feet touching. That right there comes with the big disadvantage of it's a lot easier to throw you and knock you to the ground because you have less contact area. So, in short, great for explosiveness, bad for receiving an attack, and bad for receiving a grapple. Now, whenever you distribute the weight across the entire foot, now you have the advantage of being more rooted and more power. And because you're more rooted, you can actually transfer more energy into a technique. So a strike will actually hit harder if you're better rooted than if you're less rooted, such as having your weight primarily on the balls of your feet. So if you're going to receive a grapple, the weight distributed across the entire foot is also better. It's also better for receiving a blow because you're less likely to get knocked down. However, disadvantages to it is you're less springy, you're less agile, you're less able to get in and bam, real quick with that hit. You're also less likely to be able to evade an attack. So what it comes down to is you actually need to use both. So the first thing you need to do in your training, and the way classical martial arts do it, we train you in both methods. You need to be able to dynamically switch between the two. Now, whenever you keep your weight on the balls of your feet, then your muscles, the calf muscles, the ankles can get fatigued because they're not used to supporting you in that position all the time. Plus, it just puts a lot more load onto them, so they have to work harder. In a combative encounter, whenever you are at a good enough distance from the opponent, stay there in a 50-50 fully distributed across the entire foot distribution. It'll keep you from fatiguing your calf muscles and fatiguing the tendons and the ankles and things like that. If you get to the point where you're going to explode across that gap into the opponent, you would shift your weight. Hopefully you can do it without the opponent noticing that you've shifted your weight, because a good opponent will recognize that shift in weight and realize, oh, something's getting ready to launch at me. So suddenly shift that weight forward and then bam, across the distance. If you see they're getting ready to come at you, as you notice they're getting ready to come at you, shift your weight to the balls of the feet and explode off. Be ready to shift back and forth dynamically between the two. So in other words, you might want to shift to the balls of the foot to explode into them and then root yourself on the heel so the next hits even harder than the previous one. Plus also when you get in close, they can throw you as well. So you want to root yourself down so it's harder for them to counter throw you and other things like that. So that's the real answer. You need to be able to do both. You need to switch between the two, and you need to make sure your training focuses on both methods. Now, I know some people go, oh, no, you want to be on the balls of the feet all the time. Well, sport karate likes to be on the balls of the feet all the time because their sport is primarily striking. It's karate devoid of the grappling component. Classical karate grapples too. It isn't just striking techniques. Classical karate also includes weapons. It's not empty hand only like modern karate. Classical karate is striking, grappling, and weaponry. So when we're doing all three of those, we need to be dynamic in how our feet work. There's also a little thing about gripping the ground. I'll save that for a different segment about how to grip the ground with your feet. But other than that, stay tuned. Keep an eye on what I'm doing. Remember, I'm teaching classes online. And if you read my teaching classes online segment that I did just before this segment, you can learn online, but little details and sparring and stuff like that, you really need to do in person. But we can get you the kata online. We can get you philosophies and knowledges online. We can get you the basics of techniques online. But to learn your distancing, your timing, little manipulations like you may see, okay, well, one person bends the wrist and the person cartwheels, and another person bends the wrist and nothing happens. Well, the reason why cartwheels for one person and does nothing for the other person is little intricate details that you must feel done to you. In other words, I would need to take you, manipulate your wrist for you to feel what I'm doing, and then you would then take what you've sensed in your wrist, what was happening to you, that would help you to learn what you need to do to someone else. Without that in person, you wouldn't be able to learn that. But 90% of martial arts can be learned online. The other 10% you do need to come in person to train that 10%. But anyhow, I am teaching classes online. If you have no opportunity to come learn in person, you can still get graded. We'll grade you in just Karate Do. But if you want to get the full Karate Do, Karate Jutsu grading, you have to come train in person to get the Jutsu stuff, because that's where you have to be able to show me that you know how to use this stuff combatively under pressure and stuff like that. But anyhow, like I said, follow this channel, follow all my other channels. I'll be giving free lessons, and then there's the paid lessons on Patreon.